I survived the Holocaust. My grandparents died. Tell me that I'm guilty. Tell me that I'm guilty.
You're guilty.
Do you believe that?
Of course not.
Then why do you believe it about yourself?
Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton and Russ here with Dr. Gabor Mate filling in for Jimmy. I want to play another video for you. This was an amazing video. So you recently did an event with your son, Aaron, and Chris Hedges. And during the question and answer portion of this event, a Palestinian American woman asked you about survivor's guilt. About dealing with survivor's guilt and the challenges of managing survivor's guilt. And so I just want to play this exchange, which I thought was really, really great. And then I'll ask you a follow-up.
An American, and my voice is shaky because I lived under Israeli occupation and apartheid and witnessed horrific things as a child. Things no child should ever have to witness and see with their own eyes, including watching bombs being dropped on homes, knowing that there's children and families inside of those homes. And so being a survivor of Israeli occupation and apartheid and coming back to live in the United States, there was a lot of trauma that was stored into my nervous system. And what was left with me was a lot of survivor's guilt. And of course, over the last 5 years, I've spent it doing a lot of healing. And of course, a lot of your work, Dr. Gabor, has been just immensely helpful. And while I've been healing my nervous system, that survivor's guilt remains.
Got it.
And so the question is how do we break that generational trauma with our children?
All right, I got it.
Yeah, while continuing to...
Don't go away.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for the question.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question. I survived the Holocaust. My grandparents died. Tell me that I'm guilty. Tell me that I'm guilty.
You're guilty.
Do you believe that?
Of course not.
Then why do you believe it about yourself?
That's a good question.
Think about that one. Either I'm guilty, in which case we both are, or neither of us is. But it can't be the fact that you're guilty and I'm not. It's one or the other. Mm-hmm. Which one would you like to choose?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that exchange so much, and there's so much I could ask you about it. But I'm going to be selfish and ask you a question that I think could apply to, someone like myself who struggles with guilt and anxiety and things like that. What is it about? Why is it that when the question was put on you, she could see very, very plain as day, of course, you're not guilty for having survived the Holocaust? Why could she see that very clearly when it was on you, but she couldn't see it about herself?
Before I answer that question, it's a good one. Let me just tell you a bit of a sideline here.
If you want, you could charge me for that answer. Don't be offended. You can send me an invoice on Venmo.
You can't afford me. Somebody watched that video that you just played, or that portion of that event, and they commented, "How can he be a survival? He's not old enough." And I just want to tell that unfortunate, misguided person, please check my biography, would you? If you check the dates, I was born in 1944 January. What do you mean I'm not old enough to survive? What I'm saying is when people don't want to see things, they'll talk anything. So this person, rather than looking up my birth date, decides I don't look old enough, he can't be a survivor, therefore the whole answer is just illegitimate. Right. I'm talking about people's capacity for denial and deflection, which is so powerful in this whole Gaza debate. As to your question, if you didn't have a mirror, would you know what your face looked like? I'm asking you.
Well, no, I suppose not.
All right. That's why the person can't see it.
Mhm.
I just hold up a mirror to her.
Right.
I'm her mirror. Then she can see herself.
Right.
Without that mirror, we have trouble seeing ourselves. And that goes back to childhood, because a lot of people, when they're not seen for who they are by their parents, they don't see themselves. They only see their dysfunctions. Number one. Number two, in terms of guilt and anxiety that you mentioned for yourself, if you want me to delve into it, I will. I don't know how.
We were joking before you came on that we were going to have you give us.
I don't know how deeply you want to take this.
No, but I mean, in a very broad sense here, I will open this up to what I think. I think I could speak for a lot of people when I say that I think this past year and a half, just the constant exposure to such unbelievable horrors, I think a lot of us, broadly speaking, have a certain survivor's guilt, even though we are not in Gaza ourselves. I think a lot of us feel like
guilt about our privilege,
guilt about our and in a sense, guilt about our powerlessness, guilt about how did we create a society that would just do this, and here we are with no ability to do anything but talk online about how horrible it is.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so many people I speak to, including myself, have got this deep, frustrated sense of helplessness.
Right.
And how is it that I can talk about all this stuff and then go for a nice walk in my nice neighborhood and have a good meal when people are starving? You know, that's not guilt so much. Like when you say, how did we create a society? What morning did either of you guys wake up and decide to create this society?
Right, right.
Mm.
And what exactly did you do to create this society? You were born into it. You're shaped by it. You didn't create it. What you're describing really is what has been called moral injury, which is the sense of helplessness and frustration, and perhaps even guilt at watching suffering happen, and the sense of helplessness in the face of it. A lot of people are experiencing that. A lot of people are experiencing it, and many are talking about it and many are not because they're so intimidated to even address this issue. That's a whole other question of the intimidation that takes place around even discussing this issue with any honesty, with any open-heartedness, with any humanity. But this moral injury, the helplessness that you experience. And look, I am in a fortunate position in a certain sense. I have a platform. I speak to thousands or in person or tens or hundreds or thousands, in some cases millions of people through the internet. But all the speaking that I've done, and I made that point in that event with Chris Hedges, all the speaking that he's done, all the interviews that you guys have done, all the wonderful journalism written and spoken that Chris Hedges is engaged in, other members of my family, historians like Ilan Pape, academics like Norman Finkelstein, any number of people. We have not saved a single finger of a single Palestinian child.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. And that's in the face of power that we have no capacity to shift even an iota. And that injures us. If we have a heart, how can it not be broken in the face of all that?
Mm.
Right.
So there's brokenheartedness and a sense of helplessness. Now, of course, let's not do them the favor of actually believing that we're helpless. Let's not provide them the service of behaving as if we don't make a difference, because we're talking in the long term here as well. And we have no right to give up the struggle in the long term, even in the face of all kinds of defeats and all kinds of frustration. But that moral injury that you're describing, it's very common these days, very common.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And to narrow it down to myself for one last thing, and then I'll toss to Russ. I have kids myself. I have twin 6-year-olds, and I have one who's 10 months, so he doesn't know anything. But my 6-year-olds are just old enough to.
No. Wait a minute. He knows a lot.
Okay. Okay. Well,
and you should be willing to learn from him. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that I should absolutely. But my 6-year-olds, I remember knowing who the president was when I was 6, because my parents were good Democrats at the time, since radicalized like so many of us. But I remember in the 1992 presidential race, they told me Bill Clinton was good, George Bush was bad. I believed it. What the hell did I know? Right.
Mm-hmm.
My kids don't know who the president is. My kids don't know anything that's going on. They're 6 years old. And I feel, you talk about moral injury, a certain anxiety comes from the fact that when I'm around them and they are living in this world of innocence and happiness and joy and toys and TV, the tension is so stark between that and the headspace that I'm in because of what's going on and what I do for a living. And it just wired into this constantly. And then there's the issue of my sort of moral conscience, who wants them to be, good civic-minded people and all that, clashes, if I'm being totally honest, with my parental instinct, which is to protect them from the horrors of the world and to preserve that innocence, to let them live in this world of happiness for as long as they can. And so there's definitely an anxiety that comes from that.
Okay. What a great question, and how articulated you present the dilemma. But let me reassure you. We don't have to teach our kids morality. In fact, we can't even teach them morality. What we can do is model morality. That's important in our relationship with them, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Fairness, justice, acceptance. And we have to make sure that they can develop authentically within themselves. And kids who have that kind of security, they will be moral. Their sense of connection and caring for the world will see what you want them to. When you talk about morality, what are you talking about? You're talking about sense of connection and fairness and caring. So caring is very vulnerable, because when you care about something, and if you care about your dog and your dog gets injured, it hurts you. A lot of parents, the way we parent kids in our society, actually hurt children, so children shut down their vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
They never develop the caring. Your kids, if they have that environment where they feel secure and happy and accepted, their sense of morality will just flower when it needs to.
Right.
And they will learn what they need to learn when it's time for them to learn it. So I think your parenting instinct have to override any other fear or concern that you have, and I support you doing that. And this is a beautiful film came out some decades ago, Italian film called "It's a Beautiful Life" or "Life."
No, you're talking about "Life is Beautiful,"
Life
which is
Beautiful,
probably my favorite movie of all time. It's so funny you mentioned that. It's probably my favorite movie of all time.
All right, so that goes right to the point of what you're talking about here.
Yeah,
because is it Robert Benigno, the star? It's during the Nazi time and anti-Semitism, and this man protects his child from the horror of it by playing with him, by caring about him, by absorbing the stress of the reality and just letting the child be a child. And it creates absolute safety for that child. And that's what you need to do. And I guarantee you, those kids will grow up with a sense of morality. And when it's time for them to find out about stuff, they'll find out about it.
It's amazing. I mean, you blew my mind, man. It's amazing you mentioned that movie, because I've told Russ before in the past, that is probably my favorite movie, about a father who pretends the Holocaust is a play for the emotional benefit of his kid. And here I am asking you that, and you bring that movie up. That is, I could see why I can't afford you. I know what now I can't afford you. You're good. You're good.
You're good.
You're good. You. That's Robert De Niro.
You're good.
You. Yeah.
If I may be self-serving enough, There's another book of mine that I urge you to read. It's called Hold On to Your Kids, Why Parents Need to Matter More Than Peers. And it's about maintaining the primacy of the adult-child relationship so the kids don't get hooked into the peer world, where they will lose themselves. It's been published in 40 languages. Hold On to Your Kids. And it's not, actually it's not my work. I helped to write it, but it's the work of a psychologist friend of mine, Dr. Gordon Neufeld. I hope you read that book, because I think actually what it'll do is reinforce your parenting instincts. The problem is we're born with these instincts, but the instincts have to be evoked by the environment. And this society shuts down and intimidates people's parenting instincts rather than evoke them. So I tell you, follow your instincts and read that book and hold on to your parenting instincts. They'll guide you through.
Come see us live. Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.